All right, welcome to the Sweet Talk. Today is Monday, January 18th, 2021. I am your host, Kim Matina, and I am a Google certified trainer and educator as well as a technology teacher. And today I have on my show Miss Rebecca Cooney. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
Rebecca comes to us from Washington State, and she's actually a unique guest because she is in higher education. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very excited
Well,
to be here.
I'm so happy that you're on, and I'm just so glad that you're going to give us a whole different perspective of how educators in the higher education or college level, work with technology and use the tools in that level as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can dive into interactive activities.
Interactive activities, sure. Rebecca Cooney, and my formal title is Scholarly Associate Professor at the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication at Washington State University. And I have been teaching in higher education for more than 10 years. And I teach primarily communication students. And we went to 100% online last March, as well as synchronous, asynchronous type of delivery of courses. And now I have led countless live interactive sessions and have learned a lot since fall.
I think
Especially.
we can all say that, right? We all have
Yeah.
learned a lot and grown a lot. So I'm so happy that you're on. I'm really curious to see the type of workflows that educators at that level really work with. I mean, I would imagine it's really the same thing as K-12 students, like teachers. We want to engage our students. We want to give them peer review, peer feedback, provide them with engage in activities and engage in lessons. So I can't see
Mhm.
it being that much different at college. I mean, but you're the expert here.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for the K-12 teachers, especially having two high school students at home myself. I cannot imagine what it's like to try to keep their attention. It's hard enough to keep the college students' attention. I can only imagine how challenging it is with those K-12 kiddos. So very
Yeah,
big props
it's
to them.
challenging. That's a great word for it.
Very challenging. Yeah, in higher ed, it's similar, I think, but one of the things that we have to do is we can't just talk at them, because we'll lose them very, very quickly. And so what really has helped is having a daily course plan that really mixes up the lecture versus demonstration versus interactive activities, and really keeps things moving. And there's not a lot of forgiveness, so it's got to move, and keep those students engaged and keep them excited about the course content.
Now, so to get off topic a little bit,
Sure.
since we have to keep moving, do you find that the students at that level have an issue or problem keeping up or multitasking with what they need to get done and what
Yeah.
they have to do?
I think they do struggle with it. Some of them really have a hard time keeping track of what they're supposed to be reading, what they're supposed to be writing, what they're supposed to be contributing. And so doing a hybrid well, really more of that flipped classroom model has made a huge difference, where you give them material to sort of read and watch and prepare prior to coming to the live session, has helped a lot in holding their interest, keeping their interest, and then helping them to engage. And the other thing that, if I didn't do it, I think I would lose all of them, is the interactive activities throughout the live session. And so I try to use live, like lectures and reading assignments, I really try to have in my asynchronous space. And then they come in and I might cover a slide or two in my deck, but mostly I'm going to go into demonstration, into tutorial, or into some kind of way to apply the lesson, versus like spending a lot of time talking at them.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that can be applied to K-12 as well. Like, we don't, like, I know me, I don't want to talk at the kids because then you're going to just turn them off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in middle school, so it's even a little bit more fun as far as, trying to keep them
Mhm.
engaged because if they find that you're talking at them and you're telling them what to do in a wacky or negative tone, you're going to turn them off.
Right.
So I think, like you said, the flipped classroom, that definitely using the technology tools takes away from some of that tone because you can be recording and capturing your videos and your
Mhm.
lessons, and they can learn at their own pace.
Right.
So I know, like, I don't, I mean, I think that's pretty common, right? I mean, I would think that those issues are still valid even for K-12 teachers as well.
Yes, very valid. And I have found the Google tools to be by far the most essential when it comes to these live interactive sessions. And when I'm using Google tools, I have found different ways so that students are, whether they're doing a Google Doc or they're doing Google Sheets, Google Slides, Jamboard, whatever it is, I always have a master sheet that has all of the links on it. I didn't do the breakout rooms. And then I'm giving them one link that they go to grab whatever doc or whatever file I need them to access. Because if I try to give them multiple links in the chat, it gets very confusing. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
we use
totally
Zoom.
agree.
Yeah, so because we use Zoom, and I don't use, I'm not as familiar with Google Meet, so apologies for not being able to speak directly to that tool. But in Zoom, when you put your students into breakout rooms, you can't talk to them and they can't talk to you, which is one of the things I would say to our Zoom folks, fix it because
Yeah.
that's a real struggle. So to sort of overcome that, though, by using the shared Google Docs, what you can do is you get them into the breakout rooms. And then once you're in there, you can actually access and be in there in each of the files with them in real time. And you can comment and you can sort of watch progress. Are they getting stuck? Are they actively engaged? What's really happening? And then that way, if you need to break into a group and kind of disrupt their rhythm, you have a reason to be there. But I actually use the comment feature throughout, whether it's in slides or in docs, whatever. And that way they can be in that breakout room for 10 to 15 minutes doing their collaboration and I'm not disrupting them. And I've heard that that's a really big barrier.
Wow. So, I mean, I hear people doing that. Like they'll put the kids in the breakout rooms and then they'll watch in real time, like what the kids are doing, not
Yes.
necessarily jumping in and out of the rooms. But I didn't think about using the commenting tools. So that's actually
Mhm.
that's a great piece of advice to give because you don't want to like distract or take away from their content that they're writing or typing in the document itself. So just giving a comment using the commenting tool just puts it off to the side and then
It
they
also
can go
gives them
back.
a place to engage with you and ask questions without them having to break their flow and come back into the main room, ask the question, and then try to get back into their group.
Yeah, I
And
think that's
I've
a
just
great.
found it's really helpful. It also, I have heard from peer faculty in particular that when they have broken into the rooms, it's almost like they see this collaboration and these students are having this engagement and they're chatting with each other and they're talking it through. And then the faculty member comes in and suddenly it's silent. And so I think if you want to keep the students engaged, you want to keep them sort of in the moment, excited about whatever it is you've asked them to do, stay away. Let them have their 10 to 15 minutes and then pop in through the more non-obtrusive method using the
So
comments.
what do you suggest? Like the teacher share Google Doc with the group, or do you have the group share it back with the teacher? How do
So
you what would
I
you
I
recommend?
normally put together an activity. So, for example, one of the examples I have is students look at they build websites as part of an assignment, and so they're in teams building those websites. So one group is going to do a peer evaluation of another group, And so I put together a doc, it's usually in slides or whatever, and I give them their assignment, and each team has their own Google slide, like a shared Google slide. But I create a master doc that has a link, a hyperlink to all of those Google slide files.
Okay.
So that way, here we are in the Zoom session. I'm talking them through, I'm giving the instruction on what we're going to do with breakout. I give them that master Google Doc. That comes up. I say, go grab your link, go grab your team's link. They grab it. Everybody's good. Thumbs up. Awesome. And then they go. And so then I am literally on my computer, right? I just pull up, I'm looking at all the shared and I'm watching them work. And it's fabulous because you can literally see how are they just sitting there? Are they moving? Is something happening? Are they typing? And if they're not typing, if they're not moving, that's when you can say, okay, I'm gonna first insert in with some comments, some non-obtrusive, give them about 3 to 4 minutes.
Give them a nudge.
Give a little nudge. And then if they're really not doing anything, then as the instructor, you can pop in and say, what's going on, folks? You need help? Got any questions?
Yeah.
And then at the end, all that I've ever done is, we bring them all back out of the breakout room, and then I have them share. And I usually have them do some kind of question praise. What is it called? There's a couple of different, it's my favorite peer review is question suggestion. Praise, question, suggestion, I should say. So what did you like about it? What are some of the questions that came up? What are some of the suggestions you have? That's a really light way. They have to appoint a speaker, somebody who's sort of the spokesperson for the group. And then we just bring up whatever they're looking at and have them walk through it. And everyone's engaged, everyone's involved. It really works really well.
I like that idea that you used the Google slide and you had just say whatever, I don't know, 10 slides, and then you can see the activity and the changes of what's going on from each group in that slide. So the teacher is not really going in and out of docs per se, but you're working in one slide instead, that's a good idea because, sometimes teachers have, I don't know how many small groups they may have, but they may have a lot that they have to bounce back and forth, and that can take time. So having the slide deck there with all the links in it to whatever they're working on is a nice centralized location to have everything.
And I've done it both ways where I've had the groups all in a single Google slide. I've also had it where the groups were in their own unique Google slide. Either way works as long as the instructor is prepared to have sort of the multiple tabs up. The nice thing about having separate files is that you don't risk one team sort of inadvertently
doing
something in the wrong page of a Google slide. But as long as it just really depends on how many, I'm only dealing with maybe 6 or 8 teams at a time, so it's pretty manageable. But if you had 20 teams, that could get pretty heavy.
I mean, it could be a lot, but even still, I just like having the slide deck there. For me, I just like having it all in one, and then you could just branch off. So that's actually a great suggestion. I really like that. I think I'm going to pass that along. Yeah, I didn't think about using slides for it. Always, you always tend to think about docs, and we got to get out of that mindset and try to expand to some of the other tools, because some of the other tools can help more with what you're doing. You're not limiting yourself, so. Yeah.
And docs works fine, but I found, so if you wanted to do a research data collection and sharing, I have an assignment where students do curated content for social media, for example. And so they're given a Google sheet that they have to populate. And so I actually go in with them. They each have their own sheet. And as they're researching and populating the spreadsheet, I'm also going in and doing my research and populating their spreadsheet. And so it's all real time working together. And I just, I work down a couple of fields, and that way they can see in real time what it's like to collaborate and how the instructor is in there without being obtrusive and hovering too much.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and that's part of having like the tools, the collaboration tools, and working together, because you can access all that information and work
Mhm.
on it at the same time or not, and see it all happen and transform in real time. So it's a great experience. And I know, with COVID and everything, a lot of schools went remote or hybrid, and
Yeah.
everyone's teaching different. Like everybody's teaching back at day one again. It doesn't matter how many years you're in the profession. But I think there's a lot of positive things that are coming out of the way teachers are presenting the information and having the kids interact, and it's allowing people to collaborate more, and that's a skill that this, and communicate more, and that's a skill. Those skills are soft skills, but they are definitely needed when they enter, college or even the workforce. So I think we have to think of the positive sometimes.
There's a lot of great positives, and I have found that my group interaction. So one of the classes that I teach in this virtual synchronous is it's a semester long group project. So they're together for 15 weeks. They have to find the love, even if they can't find it, they got to figure
Yeah,
it out. And I have found that the virtual synchronous meetups are far more effective in really preventing anyone from hiding. And so
yeah,
they really can't just sit there and be quiet and let everybody speak for them. They all have to be in that virtual room together. And then when I do my one-on-ones with them, I'm able to say, go around to each student. Tell me what's going on, how you feeling, what's happening, where are you feeling strong, where are you feeling, a deficit, what's going well, what's not. And they all are there. They're on camera, their voice, and they have to, they're in a much greater position to share than they are to just sort of hide and be on their phone and, you know, let other people talk for them.
yeah. I think in a way it's a little bit more, even though we're not face to face, just having that quick personalized conversation with them for
Yeah.
a few minutes is important, behind the screens. And
Yes.
sometimes that's all you need to do is that little bit of communication to connect with the students, to open up. And sometimes that's a positive for some of the kids too. So
Well, and
those
I found that
those
my
connections are
interactive
important.
Yeah, and my interactive class activities, which I certainly do in person, and they're effective and they're fun and they tend to be a little bit more tactile. Like I'll use whiteboards and I'll use paper and I even bring in like Crayola. I sometimes really go kind of old school. But with the interactive virtual sessions, what's really great is that I have a finished product at the end. So when I have them do a brainstorming exercise, or I have them build something together, or I have them do research, or this a peer evaluation exercise, at the end of that, I have a finished doc that I can then email them, or resend back to them, and they can then incorporate it into their assignment. I almost always try to have something that they build with me that is related to an assignment that they're doing anyway. And so that
Yeah,
they don't have to reinvent the wheel. And the fact that they can share their screen. So if they're having trouble, especially a tech issue, I say, great, share your screen. Tell me what's going on. Show it to me. And then we work through the challenge versus, me having to hover over them in the classroom, which is almost always a little bit, more
yeah,
chaotic.
yeah.
And I also
And you
break,
always end up doing it for them too, right? Like maybe not in the
yeah,
college, but like I know
no, I do.
you do. Because
Yeah.
sometimes, you have to stand there with your hands behind your back so you don't touch their computer or mouse. But,
Yes.
I think, yeah, it definitely opened up a whole new avenue for the kids too, with troubleshooting and sharing their screen and
Mhm.
presenting the information. And definitely, I think, for the students that aren't shy, I think they're probably just comfortable being in front of the camera. But for those other students, then it takes a little bit of time, but maybe it'll help them get out of their shell a little bit. And then, like you said, the interactive activities and the peer review. And so what are some of the things that you do with the students, for like peer review and all? Like what are some of the things that you do at that level? Well, we
For
kind of
peer
went
review.
over the collaboration piece with the Google Slides. But what are
Right.
some other interactive activities that you do with your
Oh
kids?
my gosh. So many different, my favorite, I, some of them are peer review is one of them, but I really love group brainstorming in Google Docs. And sometimes I'll just do a master doc, and I will usually create like a grid for each team or a table for each team. And so they sort of do that brainstorming within each of those. I use surveys in Google
Yep,
Forms.
surveys. Yep.
Love those. Um, I do mindfulness exercises, values exercises as a way for them to really kind of dig a little bit deeper into how they're feeling or their personal value statements. And I do that a lot for the team building as they are trying to figure out how they want to work together. They have to do a team contract. They have to do a charter. They have to come up with their value statement, and by doing that, they set a tone for the entire term on what they're sort of agreeing. So it's almost like coming up with their own ways the agreement of how we're gonna operate. You
Now,
know,
is that something that they do just for a project, or is that for the whole like semester?
they do it for in this case, in this example that I'm sharing, is a semester long project. So they're
Oh,
together for all 15 weeks. So when they come up with that contract and that here's how we're going to operate, here's how we're going to work together, they're committing for the entire term.
okay. And then, so what are, like, I know we mentioned some of the Google tools, the forms, the slides, the docs, but are there
Mhm.
any other tools that you support in interacting with your students? Because I'm not sure, like, I know people say, like, you don't want to introduce all new tools
I
all
know.
the time because, the kids, you're just getting used to it. The kids are getting used to it. You don't have to reteach them. But sometimes I agree with that, but then I disagree because I think people get bored. Like the kids
They
get
do.
bored. So are there any other tools that you use to engage your students with,
Yes.
to keep them
All
interested?
the time. So Padlet, which is not a Google product, but Padlet is one of my favorite tools. I do that for like the one question, like one Q&A at the opener. Sometimes it'll just be like, it could be something silly, like show me the last picture in your phone, which can be dangerous, but that can be
Yeah.
fun.
I don't think
uh,
I want to do that in middle school.
or it can be, you know, if you were a super, what superhero would you be? Or there's a litany of really great one line questions out there. I use Padlet for that. Sometimes I'll have them go out and they'll use a tool like Canva or Adobe Spark, and they'll create something, and then I'll have them share it on a Padlet. And
Okay.
that's really fun. They enjoy that. And then there's a way for them to, or like do your pet pics, PET, pet pictures, anything that they just really enjoy. It gets them something personal, something fun. Throw up a picture from your latest, where you want to be, where you'd rather be than where you are right now, and
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of that. I use a Jamboard. We talked about it. A Jamboard. I love the stickies.
Yeah, the
Um,
sticky notes.
it's just great. And we've built customer journey maps through that. We've built thank you notes for guest speakers. It's a great place. Jamboard's a really, really cool place to do an all class thank you note. They all go in and they do their own little flair. That's really, really fun. The Zoom interactive tools. So some like sharing my phone on screen has been really cool. When I walk through an application or I walk through like how to do Instagram analytics or insights, I can share my phone on
Oh,
screen.
okay.
Really slick. There's also whiteboards,
Yeah.
and then the annotate within
Yep.
Zoom is also fantastic. That given smiley faces, check boxes. There's also inset quizzes that you can do that have worked really, really well. I've done them in Zoom as well. You can actually
I think that's a paid version.
the university, yeah, it might be in our version. Panopto is our video capture tool, video lecture capture tool. They also have quizzes that you can build into that.
Okay.
And then I also use Slack, which there's lots of discussion around whether or not that's good. But I have found that Slack is the greatest way to communicate with students in real time throughout the semester. They don't tend to use the chat feature in Canvas. the way that I would think they would, but they don't.
Mhm.
I get bombarded with emails, which is fine. But what do you do as an instructor when you want to kind of keep your course space sort of clean? Like, I don't want to clutter it up with a bunch of, oh, here's this article on this, or here's this event you might want to look at, or here's this internship opportunity you should check out, or here's this, here's that, here's this. So quickly, your course space announcements, and it's just like this clutter, and there's
Yeah.
no organization or structure to it. But with Slack, you can create channels for all of those things. You can create channels for news and events, or a channel for, hellos and, tell me what's going on, or a channel for my Twitter feed, channels for internship and job ops, all that kind of stuff. And so I don't have to clutter my course space with all of those sort of day-to-day things. I can instead use Slack as a way for them to communicate to me really quickly through DM, or when I want to just share something with them that I think is really cool. It doesn't get buried in this course.
You don't lose it.
Yeah, and if I send it by email, it's done. They're so bombarded. They're just over, like everybody.
So with Slack, I'm familiar with it, but I don't feel comfortable with it. I'm still learning it. I'm using it with one group. So explain a little bit about Slack, like what I gave her my email address and then she added me to the channel. So what is involved in getting your students on there?
There's a couple of different ways that people do it. What I think the most efficient way is that you actually have a single Slack workspace, but then you create multiple channels and you invite your students to the channels you want them in. That's technically the most efficient and limits the duplication. So that way, if I had a single workspace and I wanted my Twitter feed to be integrated in, or my Loom feed to be integrated in, which I also love Loom, by the way. What's the other one? There's a couple. I can't even think of all of them. There's several integrations. Then I don't have to duplicate across multiple classes. But this semester, I have actually done, I'm creating more work for myself, but I feel like it's a little bit more organized for me. This is just my operations. I've created 4 different Slack workspaces, one for each of my courses.
I was just going to ask you that if you had.
But technically I'm duplicating, right? Because I could, if I did it just a single workspace and then created multiple channels, I could limit that duplication. So I get the value of that, but I have chosen, because I really am trying to experiment with different things this term, I went ahead and created separate channels, one for each, or separate workspaces, excuse me, one for each course.
One for each course. Okay. Yeah, that's funny. I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah.
So with the kids, so what did you do? Invite them via email?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just invite them through email. And you can also send a link, but I think that link expires after 30 days. So it's cautionary. You just invite them in, they join, and then as you send announcements and postings, they engage or they don't. It really kind of puts the onus on the student. But I have found, especially with my master's students, they love it. They're all over it. Because especially since my master students are 100% online, they're in 25 states, 7 countries, like 200 cities. They're all, they're just literally all over the world. That Slack they love the real time. They love to be able to just send me a quick note, or they want to be able to share something. Oh, did you see this article on and such, or I've got this great book I just read. I want to share it with everybody. They love that they've got that real time engagement with each other and with me. So
that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. I'll have to keep that in mind. Like, I can't see educators in maybe high school. I don't know, but K-8, I don't think that they would use it, only because of the COPPA. So we're limited to that, but I definitely can see the use of it for maybe high school and higher, definitely.
And there should have to be some ground rules. And I think that you can set some permissions in Slack where if I wanted to view anything before it went live,
you can approve it.
I could do that. So if you were worried about anybody posting something inappropriate or maybe just a little bit too off topic, I think you have a
Yeah.
way to do some mediation.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's really good to know. I didn't think about using Slack. Like I said, I'm in middle school, so it wouldn't like I wouldn't use that with the kids, and I wouldn't promote that with teachers. I know some teachers use Remind, but
Yes,
that's not like I don't think that's a two-way
I think that's
communication.
more of a opt-in texting, isn't it?
Yeah, like you're just really sending out information
Mhm.
to the group. I don't think they could respond to you. So it's a
Right.
little different. But yeah, that seems to be the way things are going. Like you got the Google, you got Google Chats and you got Slack and then there's all these other apps out there, WhatsApp and everything like
Yep.
where they're all chatting and then it actually, it gets to be like overwhelming, like because now you find yourself on like all these different platforms.
Right.
But I
But as
guess
instructors, like I don't want to give out my cell. I really
yeah,
don't. I
no.
don't want them texting me individually. Um, I really want to set appropriate boundaries in that way. And so I much prefer through Slack. I'm going to get the same level of
Yep.
notification. They can have the same level of engagement, but in fact, they can also link files, photos, video, and they have all that freedom that I think is, yes, I suppose there are risks that one would need to be aware of, and maybe need to set some permission levels or some stop gaps to make sure that if you're worried about inappropriate content eking in, um, but otherwise I'm thrilled with Slack so far, and I feel like it's been a huge value add for my online students, especially my 100% online. So those faculty that are going to have students, even if I know across the country it's all over the place, whether it's hybrid, in person, online, but a lot of faculty or instructors are dealing with the mix. And so to have something that continuous ability, and maybe does Google Classroom that has a Google Chat that no,
No, they're not
there's
there yet.
they're not there. Yeah, that's too bad. But
No.
that's a big that's such a big bonus. Is
Yeah, I
that
mean, there's Google Chat. There's a chat, like you can download the chat app, but there's nothing within Google Classroom that promotes that
mm,
type of collaboration. Just, providing feedback on assignments, class
yeah,
comments, that stuff, but not nothing compared to what Slack is or chat really is.
sure.
But yeah, I definitely see the value in that. I can see where there's a lot of engagement in that and that you can give information and you can receive information. And I think it's a great platform. And it might be something that I can explore maybe with teachers, like instead of teachers, like how many teachers do I have in my phone that I text, right?
Right.
For my school, I can maybe set up a Slack channel and then have the conversations in there, you know.
Yep.
Um, but
Teams is another one. Microsoft Teams.
Teams, yeah,
I
Teams.
I have just found that it's clunky enough with my peer faculty and staff. I can only imagine trying to do that one with students, but I'm sure it's also doable. It just hasn't really been adopted at the student level, at least at our university. It's definitely among peers and across departments, but I haven't really seen it being used with the students.
Yeah,
Student
I don't have any experience with it, with using it with students because we're a Google for Education school district. So
right,
everything that we're doing is G Suite, Google Workspace. So we're not except Google Meet. We're not using Google Meet. We're using Zoom too.
right,
So it's I didn't think about Slack. I really think some type of app along those lines can be engaging for the kids and keep the two-way communication open and definitely can be used in the classroom for some type of like learning activity or whatnot, and even collaboration within the app. Like
yeah,
like you said, you can add files and attachments in there. So
yeah.
yeah,
And there's another one that is just absolutely. I don't want to step away from where we are, but the There's one that the gamers use that's also very popular, a competitor to Slack, and
Oh,
I'm blanking right now. I'm sorry on what it's called, but that's also very popular and one that could be considered because the students are already on it.
the students are on it. Yeah.
Yes.
Huh.
So I chose Slack because, from an industry standpoint, as students want to put things on their resume, just like Google Analytics, because I
Yeah.
actually Google Analytics certification is built into one of my curriculum,
Okay.
and so I try to choose tools that are going to have meaning on on their resume and on their CV. So I'm mindful of that, making sure that any tool that I introduce is going to have long-term benefit for them.
Yeah, and Slack's been around a little bit too, so it's
Mhm.
got a little bit more of a following. I mean,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, I mean, the reputation and the validity of it is there.
it's very good.
Yeah.
Another tool that's really fun that several of my peer faculty are using is Flipgrid.
Yep,
I don't know if
Flipgrid
you've
is
tried that.
great. Yep.
That's a really, really fun one for student introductions to get them out of, the same sort of having to write their kind of bio statement, giving them a creative prompt and having them put together Flipgrids is really fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it,
We definitely use Flipgrid down in K-12 or K-8.
they enjoy it. They kind of get into it.
I wonder now that we're all, teaching remotely the way we are, I wonder how much of a gap will be closed from high school to college. I guess we won't find out
Yeah,
for a
I
few
know.
years, because
Well,
I've
I know
always
that.
heard that like there's always a gap between high school seniors and college freshmen, like whether it's with skills or just the technology. I mean, the technology that is being used at the college level is different than at K-12. So I wonder now if that gap will like
It
be
might.
smaller.
I'm thrilled that the students are in the K-12 are using Google. Although we have access to Teams, and I think the students have access to Teams too. I'm not fully versed. I really want the students well versed in Google, because when they are doing collaborative work in teams or even in pairs, whatever it might be, or just honestly sharing their work with me if it's a larger file, Google is the way to go. There's
Yeah,
just there's just nothing better for collaborative
for
docs.
collaboration.
Yeah, and when they have presentations, the way that they can bring those up so quickly, and all the students can be in at once working on various sections. I have not found the other products, the alternative products, to be superior.
To
Google
be
is still the one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Now, somebody on YouTube is watching, and this person had wrote that Discord is the chat tool that many gamers use. Is that the
Thank
one that you were
you,
thinking?
Discord. Yes. Thank you.
So you see, I
Yeah.
never heard of it before. So
Yes, Discord is, and I've used it. I actually have it on, it's on my system. Great tool. It's very similar to Slack, but the benefit for what I would say would be those K-12 teachers who would be interested in it is that it's a high one for the gamers. So the kids are already familiar.
yeah,
It would be a big
so
department.
that could be that. I mean, I would be leery with that only because is it monitored? Like how you don't know who's on there? Like
Well, you
is it
can limit who's on there because it's invite only,
okay? But
right?
can
And
you create
so
your own group in there? Like, can you create your own channel or
I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't. I suppose anything's possible. I mean,
right?
but I don't know.
I
To
don't know.
be
You
honest,
have to be like you have to. Yeah, I would be leery of using something like that with
with the young
K-8
ones, yeah,
definitely.
maybe the high
You know,
schoolers.
maybe the high schoolers can handle that only because they're a little bit older.
Yeah,
But K-8 definitely, like I would just be a little bit leery only because of the COPPA rules and stuff.
right,
And you don't know, like at least like with Google Educate for Education, you're in your own domain,
right.
you know, with
Much more
something
protected.
like that, you just don't know,
Yeah.
So I know I would be a little bit cautious with it. That's just
Agreed.
me.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Well, this was awesome. See,
Yeah,
we're
it's been
not
fun.
really that far off. I mean,
No, no.
some of the things that you mentioned, we're right there with you guys, so it's not bad. It's just nice to have a different perspective at your level, talk
Yeah,
about some of the things because the things that you mentioned are some of the things that we are doing already, and it's just nice to know that you're using them as well, or those strategies, because eventually when the kids get to that level, you want them to
yeah.
be well versed and well rounded with that. So you don't want them to be exposed to that for the first time. So that's, it's reassuring. Let's just put it that way. So that was
And
great.
there's a lot of great resources out there. Catlin Tucker comes to mind as one
Oh
where I'm
yeah.
starting to see more and more articles coming out on how to how to design interactive activities for virtual live sessions that are designed that have taken what has been sort of icebreakers and interactive activities in person and have properly converted them to the online space. And I've done some of it myself through my own work, but I think as this continues for probably the duration of this academic
School
year,
year. Yeah.
yeah, we're going to see more and more come out, and I will also be a contributor to that content. But some newer Google searching on interactive activities for live virtual sessions. It's a there's a lot more out there now.
Yeah, and it's funny, like you mentioned Jamboard before. Like I love Jamboard,
Yeah.
and I'm actually writing a book with Alice Keeler about using Jamboard, and we're writing the book at a whole different perspective, and we're using it like how can you use it for collaboration, not for a
Yeah.
presentation tool. And we want to get that message out there for people to realize, like, use it for collaboration, use it to put your kids in small groups and let them collaborate and create together and work together and brainstorm and jot notes and do things in there as a group and have them work together in there. And you know that's the kind of twist that we're putting on the book, because I really think a lot of it can be used for that concept can be used for the way we're teaching now with remote
I've
teaching.
only used it for collaboration. I never even thought about using it for presentation.
Yeah, I mean, like
Yeah.
some people, they think different, and that's great, but we're taking it and we're trying to make it more of a collaboration tool, not a presentation tool, because if you it's very similar to slides. It's
Yes.
got the frames, but slides is a lot more functionable. Um,
Hmm.
but Jamboard's functionable in the way that you collaborate with people, so it's nice to see that had mentioned that before, and that you were using it for live collaboration and
One of the things I've got is
tracking
with
progress and stuff. I was happy to
yeah.
hear that you mentioned that.
Oh, yes, and Jamboard too is great if you create multiple sheets and you have prompts. So I've done it where really simple. I don't even get into the fancy schmancy designs, but you take a single Jamboard, you split it, two or three columns down, and you put prompts within, across 3 or 4 pages, or I'm not sure if they're called
Yeah,
slides or
frames.
frames. Thank you.
Yep.
And I have found that that works really, really well, because then the students have like this freedom of movement, where if you give them these just sort of low stakes prompts on, if they have to go out and do a little bit of research, then they can just go in and grab that sticky and pop it in to the frame and to the column where that prompt is. And I get a ton of engagement through that.
That's
And
awesome. That's
it works.
awesome. I'm so
You could
glad
have
to
that
hear
up
that.
the whole time. You could have that up as an ongoing assessment.
Exactly.
Questions that you have. What are pain points, or the muddiest point, which is another great assessment, technique. I love the muddiest point, where you just every once in a while in the semester you say, what doesn't make sense?
Mhm.
Where are your questions? And if you do it in a way like a Jamboard, their name doesn't have to be attached,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is so nice for the students who are just a little bit, nervous
Not
or don't
sure.
want to put themselves out there, well, great. They don't have to. They can
Yeah.
be, and chances are one of them has the question, 5 of them have that same
Yeah,
question.
exactly. That's
So
exactly true.
I
Yes,
think I
you're
might
right.
build one as an ongoing assessment and say, anytime you want to just post to that Jamboard, I'll check it every, before every live session. Go post something up there and we'll make sure we address it, you know, at the next thing. And then that way their name's not attached to it. They don't feel put on the spot. I can just say, someone's asked the following question. Here are the
Right.
answers.
Just make a general comment about it. Right.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Jamboard is a great tool to support that, to support collaboration and group activities and focus on group work, So,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad that you mentioned that you use it at, in the at the college level, because I think it's important
Well,
for
they
people to
like it.
hear that. Yeah,
It's fun.
they do
You think
like
about
it.
design thinking is all
Hmm.
with Post-its, right?
Yeah,
So if you're teaching that design thinking mindset and that entrepreneurial mindset, Jamboard's perfect because
exactly.
it's all stickies, or a lot
I
of it. Or, yeah,
yeah.
a big part of it is those sticky notes. They can almost adopt their own signature color. They can, or you can designate the colors to have a meaning. It's a great tool.
Yeah, and I always say, like, with that app, it's you have to think out of the box. Like, you have a giant canvas, use it
Yep.
and think out of the box, and you'll be surprised what comes out of it.
Some of them get really into it. They have a lot of fun with it.
They do. I mean, I even used it in my technology class, and the kids, first of all, because it's new, it's already engaging, because they're not familiar with it. And once they saw how easy it was, they were hooked, like, right away. So sometimes less is best.
Yep.
So
You asked earlier about, is there like a tool fatigue potential, right? As I have a class that just in the curriculum, they learn 13 tools. So my students are inherently going to be overwhelmed anyway. But I think what it really comes down to is intention. So as the instructor, if you're going to use Google and Slack and Flipgrid and Padlet, always do it with intention. Test it,
right, yeah.
make sure that things work, uh, experiment. Things that work, do it again. Things that don't work, abandon. But if you go into that mindset of everything's done with intention, I don't think the students are going to be overwhelmed as long as it's sort of seamlessly brought into the daily course plan that you're operating from.
Yeah, I think that's definitely great advice, because if it's too difficult or if it doesn't work, just let it go. Like,
Right, just
get
let it
rid
go.
of it
Do
and
more.
move on to the next one. Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yep.
always say, like, keep it simple. Keep things
Yep.
simple.
And I think it's okay to use the students as a bit of a testing ground and a little bit of a guinea pig. I have found that they often enjoy that. But if it fails, which it has, be ready
Yeah.
for, okay, so how are you going to
Have your
recover?
plan B now set up.
Yeah, because if it fails, how are you going to, if you're going to middle of an exercise and you're relying on a technology you're not super comfortable with, or a tool you're not super comfortable with, and that whatever happens, it fails, what are you going to do
Have your
to
backup plan.
recover from it? And
Yeah.
maybe backup doc, or have an alternative activity, or throw them into a discussion, but something,
Yeah.
because it's pretty egg on face right there in that moment when something doesn't work. But I think it's okay to have multiple tools. Just be mindful, be intentional, and be ready if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I have that debate with people, and some people agree, some people, they disagree, and that's fine. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but I just would get bored. Like,
Yeah, and I think
so
instructors
that's why
have
I
to
was
ask
asking
themselves
that.
how much they want to take on. I'm one that I want to play with all sorts of tools, so I go nuts. I'm always
Yeah.
after tools, but I recognize that my peer faculty may find that to be very daunting, and
Yeah.
so I say, do what works for you,
Yep.
and do what works best for your students.
Right. And then I guess, as a student perspective, if a teacher's using, I don't know, just say 5 of the same tools, and then their next teacher's using
Mhm.
3 different tools, then it can be overwhelming for the students as well. So I understand it to a certain
Yeah.
degree, but it's always nice to try something new once in a while. It doesn't hurt either.
I try to make it seamless for the students. So yes, I'll say we're doing a Padlet, but I could do that same activity as a Jamboard and they probably wouldn't be phased
Yeah,
because it's seamless for them. It's a link. I'm saying in the chat, go to this link, do this activity. What do they care?
yeah,
As
yeah.
long as, as long as I'm there ready for instruction and ready to back them up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, this was great. I'm so glad that we had a little time to chat. I'm so glad. Just talking to you and sharing with you really reassured me, and hopefully some of the other K-12 educators out there as well. So thank you for sharing, Rebecca. I really appreciate it.
It was great. Really
This
fun to
was
chat.
awesome. Yeah, it definitely was. And I'm the Slack. I'm gonna have to get a
To
little
think
bit
about.
more proactive with that one. So I'm going to just share my screen really quick. Just let me know. Can you see my screen?
And
All right. So if you want to find out more about the Sweet Talk, you can go to thesweettalk.com. And on the homepage, you'll see the latest episode here. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts as well. And you can also subscribe to my newsletter. You can check out the new book that Alice Keeler and I wrote about stepping up to Google Classroom. It's 50 steps to help beginners get started. If you'd like to support my mission and pay it forward, you can become a sponsor. You can just fill out this sponsor form and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you'd like to be a guest on my show, you can fill out the guest inquiry form and I will get back to you. Right now, I'm scheduling for May. So thank you for all of that. Episodes, if you go to the episode page, you can see all of the past episodes listed here. When it loads, you'll see all the lists and the YouTube video and show notes here. And I have my Jamboard page here. So the Jamboard page is actually a work in progress. I am updating it slowly. So you can check out the article I wrote here. And if you have any jams that you want to share with me, you can fill out the share your idea form and I will add it to the presentation. Basically, it's a pay it forward by teachers for teachers presentation on Jamboard. So you can check that out when you can. But my Jamboard page is, I am updating it. I'm getting more and more jams to add, so that makes me happy. So that concludes our show for tonight, Rebecca. Thank you so much for being on and taking the time to share. I really appreciate it.
it was great. So fun.
All right, until next time, everyone, have a great evening. Bye.